Hello! Welcome to Talk Emma Learn English. Here, we learn English by talking, listening, and practicing together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Easy English Podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jack. We're really happy you're here with us today.
Whether you're listening at home, on your way to work, or practicing before bed, thank you for learning with us.
Today's topic is something small, but very powerful.
Yes, we're talking about modal verbs in English.
Words like can, should, must, might.
They look simple,
But they completely change the meaning of a sentence.
and many beginners feel confused about how to use them correctly.
So in this episode, we'll make modal verbs clear, easy, and practical.
No complicated grammar language.
Just real English, real conversations, and confidence-building practice.
And before we begin, if you enjoy learning English in this simple way,
Don't forget to like this episode
subscribe to Talk Emma Easy English Podcast.
and share it with someone who is learning English too.
All right, now let's start. You know, Jack, yesterday someone asked me, can I improve my English fast?
Let me guess, they used can correctly.
You know, yesterday someone asked me, can I improve my English fast?
Let me guess, they used can correctly.
Yes, and they didn't even realize they were using a modal verb.
That's what makes modal verbs interesting. We use them every day without thinking about grammar.
Exactly. Words like can, could, should, must, may, might, will, would, they are everywhere in English.
But when learners hear the term modal verbs, suddenly it sounds difficult.
Yes, it sounds like a big grammar lesson.
But today, we're going to make it simple.
Very simple.
Let's start with one clear idea.
Modal verbs are helping verbs,
They come before the main verb.
and they change the meaning of the sentence.
They can show ability, permission, advice,
Possibility.
or obligation.
And here is one very important rule you must remember.
After a modal verb, we always use the base form of the verb.
Not S, not ing, not past tense.
Just the base form. For example, I can speak English.
Not can speaks. I can eat pizza. Not can eats.
She must go now.
Not must goes.
This rule is simple, but it fixes many mistakes. Now let's focus on our first modal verb, can.
We use can to talk about ability.
Something you are able to do.
For example, I can drive.
She can cook.
They can play football. Let's make it personal. Can you cook?
Yes, I can cook, but only simple food.
That counts.
Can you dance?
I can dance, but not professionally.
See how natural that sounds?
Listeners, think about yourself. What can you do?
Say it out loud. I can swim. I can speak 2 languages. I can draw.
Speaking out loud builds confidence.
Now, let's make it negative.
We say cannot or can't.
I can't drive.
She can't come today.
They can't understand the lesson.
Very simple structure. And again, base verb. Not can't understands.
Just can't understand.
Now let's talk about questions. To make a question, we move can to the beginning.
Can you help me?
Can she join us?
Can they finish the project?
Notice something important.
We don't use do or does with modal verbs.
We don't say, do you can swim?
That's wrong.
Correct form, can you swim?
Modal verbs are already helping verbs. They don't need extra help.
Now, here's another use of can.
Permission. For example, can I use your pen?
Can I sit here?
Can I ask a question?
Very common in daily life.
In school, at work, in restaurants.
It sounds polite and natural.
Some people say may is more formal.
Yes, may I come in sounds more formal.
But in everyday English, can I come in is completely fine.
Let's imagine a situation. You're in a classroom.
You're late.
You knock on the door and say, "Can I come in?"
The teacher says, yes, you can.
Simple conversation. Very real. Now imagine you're at work.
Can you send me that email?
Can you explain this again?
See, modal verbs are everywhere.
Many learners say, "I can't speak English."
But sometimes it's not true.
Maybe you can speak, but you are afraid.
So instead of saying, I can't, try saying, I am learning, or I can speak a little.
That small change in words changes your mindset.
Modal verbs don't just change grammar.
They change confidence too.
Let's create a small story.
When I was a child, I couldn't ride a bicycle.
But you learned.
Yes, at first I couldn't balance.
Then
Then I practiced every day. Now I can ride very well.
that's exactly how English works.
At first, you can't speak smoothly.
But with practice, you can.
And one day, you'll say confidently, "I can speak English fluently."
That's the goal.
Let's do a quick practice. Repeat after us. I can improve.
I can practice daily.
I can make mistakes.
I can learn from them.
I can speak English.
Good. Very good.
Now you understand can, ability, and permission, and you know the rule, base verb only.
So we just talked about can, ability, and permission.
Now, let's move to a word that looks very similar, could. Many learners think could is just the past of can,
And yes, sometimes it is.
but not always. That's where things get interesting. Let's talk about past ability. We use could to talk about something we were able to do in the past.
For example, when I was 5, I could swim.
When I was younger, I could run very fast. Notice the structure.
Subject plus could plus base verb. Not could ran, just could run.
Let's make it personal again. Could you ride a bike when you were 6?
No, I couldn't. I was scared. But now,
Now I can ride very confidently.
see the difference? Past, could. Present, can.
The negative form is could not or couldn't.
I couldn't understand the lesson yesterday.
She couldn't attend the meeting.
Very simple structure again.
Modal verbs are actually easier than many other grammar topics.
Yes, because the verb never changes after them.
Now, here's another important use of could.
Polite requests.
For example, could you help me?
Could you open the window, please?
This sounds more polite than can you help me?
Yes, can you help me is normal.
But could you help me sounds softer.
More respectful.
Very useful in professional English.
Or when you're talking to someone you don't know well.
Imagine you're at a hotel.
You say, could you bring me some water, please?
Or at work, could you explain that again?
See how natural that sounds?
Now let's practice something. Listeners, repeat after us. Could you help me?
Could you send the email? Could you call me later?
Good. There's one more important use of could.
Possibility.
For example, it could rain today.
It could be at home,
This means something is possible.
but not certain.
It's weaker than will.
Yes, it will rain sounds sure.
It could rain means maybe.
That's a big difference.
Now let's move to another modal verb, may.
May is often used for permission.
For example, may I come in?
May I ask a question?
This sounds more formal than can.
Yes, teachers often prefer may I come in.
But in daily conversation, both are acceptable.
We also use may for possibility.
She may come to the party.
We may travel next month.
Again, it means maybe. It's possible, not 100% sure.
Now let's talk about might.
Might is very similar to may,
Both show possibility.
but might sometimes feels a little less certain.
For example, it might rain tonight.
I might go to the gym.
It means you're not sure. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Let's compare them quickly. She may come, good possibility. She might come, slightly less sure.
But in modern English, many people use them almost the same way.
So don't stress too much. Communication is more important than perfection.
Let's create a small story.
Yesterday, I couldn't find my phone.
Oh no.
I thought it could be in my bag.
Was it there?
No. Then I thought it may be in the kitchen.
And?
Finally, I said it might be under the sofa.
And it was?
Yes, it was under the sofa.
Perfect example.
In one short story, we used couldn't, could, may, and might.
Let's fix some common mistakes.
Mistake 1. Adding to.
I could to help.
I could help.
Mistake 2. Changing the verb form.
She might goes. She might go.
Mistake 3. Using do with modals.
Do you could help? Could you help? Remember, modal verbs don't need extra helpers.
Let's practice together.
Say one sentence about past ability.
For example, I could swim when I was 6. Now, say one polite request.
Could you help me? Now say one possibility.
It might rain today.
Very good. Many learners are afraid to use might or may.
Because they are not sure when to use them.
But remember, these words express uncertainty.
So it's okay if you're not 100% sure.
Language is flexible.
Fluency comes from using the language, not waiting to be perfect.
Exactly. Now we've covered could, past ability and polite requests, may, permission and possibility, might, possibility.
Next, we'll move into stronger modal verbs like should, advice, must, obligation, have to, and the difference between must and should.
So now we've talked about can, could, may, and might, ability, permission, and possibility. Now we're moving into something stronger.
Advice and obligation.
These modal verbs are very powerful in daily English.
Because they show importance.
Let's start with one of the most common modal verbs, should.
We use should to give advice.
For example, you should practice every day.
He should sleep earlier.
You should study more.
Notice the structure again.
Subject plus should plus base verb.
Not should studies.
Just should study. I'm tired all the time. What should I do?
You should sleep earlier.
That's good advice. And you should drink more water.
Probably true.
Listeners, think about this question.
What should you do to improve your English?
You should practice speaking daily.
You should listen to English podcasts.
You should not be afraid of mistakes.
The negative form is should not or shouldn't.
You shouldn't worry too much.
He shouldn't eat so much junk food.
Very common in daily life.
Parents use this a lot.
Yes, you shouldn't stay up late.
Now let's talk about something stronger.
Must. We use must when something is very important or necessary.
For example, you must wear a seatbelt.
I must finish this project today.
This shows strong obligation.
Stronger than should.
Let's compare them clearly.
You should exercise. This is advice.
You must exercise. This sounds very serious.
Maybe a doctor is saying it.
Exactly.
So remember, should equals good idea.
Must equals very important.
We also use must for personal decisions.
For example, I must start saving money.
I must improve my English.
It's something you strongly decide. It shows determination.
Now be careful with the negative form, must not or mustn't.
You mustn't smoke here.
You mustn't park here. This means it is not allowed.
Very strong prohibition.
It's different from don't have to.
And this is where many learners get confused.
Now let's talk about have to.
Have to is similar to must.
But there is a small difference.
We use have to when the obligation comes from outside.
For example, I have to wake up at 6 a.m.
Why?
because my job requires it.
Good example. You have to wear a uniform at school because it's the rule.
External rule. Let's compare them clearly.
I must exercise. This is my personal decision.
I have to exercise. Maybe my doctor told me. In daily conversation, people often use them similarly.
But understanding the difference helps your fluency.
Now this is important.
Negative form, don't have to.
For example, you don't have to come tomorrow.
This means it's not necessary.
Not the same as mustn't.
Very important difference.
You mustn't come means not allowed.
You don't have to come means it's optional.
Big difference in meaning.
Let's imagine this conversation.
Do I have to finish this today?
No, you don't have to. You can finish it tomorrow.
But if the boss says,
You must finish this today.
that sounds serious.
Exactly.
Now, let's move to another very common modal verb.
Would. We use would for polite offers and requests.
For example, would you like some coffee? Would you help me?
Very polite.
We also use would in imaginary situations.
For example, I would travel the world if I had money.
She would buy a big house if she won the lottery.
This talks about imagination.
Not real now. Let's practice together. Give advice using should.
You should practice daily.
Now give strong obligation.
You must finish your homework.
Now give external rule.
I have to wear a uniform.
Now give polite offer.
Would you like some tea?
Very good.
Many learners are afraid of strong words like must.
But these words make your English powerful.
Imagine saying only simple sentences forever.
I practice English.
Now stronger.
I must practice English every day.
That sounds determined.
Or advice. You should believe in yourself.
Modal verbs help you express emotion, strength, and politeness.
They're not just grammar.
They shape your personality in English.
Now we've covered should, advice, must, strong obligation, have to, external obligation, and would, polite offers and imaginary situations.
Next, we'll mix all modal verbs together in real conversations, daily situations, and full practice stories to make everything natural and fluent.
So now we've learned all the main modal verbs.
Can, could, may, might,
Should, must, have to.
and would.
Now it's time to mix them together.
Because in real life, we don't use them one by one,
We use them naturally in conversation.
without thinking about grammar names.
Let's imagine you're at work.
Your boss says, you must finish this report today.
Strong obligation.
You reply, okay, I'll do it, but could you explain this part again?
Polite request.
Later, your colleague says, you should take a short break.
Advice.
You say, I can't right now. I have to send this email first.
External obligation.
See how many modal verbs we used in just one situation?
And it sounded completely natural.
Now imagine you're talking with a friend.
Your friend says, I might move to another city.
Possibility.
You reply, really? That could be exciting.
Another possibility.
Then you say, you should think carefully before deciding.
Advice.
Your friend answers, yes, I must make the right choice.
Strong personal decision.
One short conversation.
So many modal verbs.
Now let's go somewhere fun, a restaurant.
The waiter says, may I take your order?
Formal permission.
You say, yes, I would like some pasta.
Polite request.
Your friend says, I can't eat spicy food.
Ability limitation.
The waiter asks, could you wait a few minutes?
Polite request again.
Simple, natural, daily English.
Now let's create a longer story now.
Okay,
Last year, I couldn't speak English confidently.
past ability.
I thought, I might never become fluent.
Doubt, possibility.
But then I told myself I must try.
Strong determination.
I knew I should practice every day.
Good advice.
Sometimes I didn't want to study,
Normal feeling.
but I would wake up early and practice speaking.
Habit in the past.
Now I can speak much better,
Present ability.
and I know I can improve even more.
Confidence.
That's how modal verbs tell the story of growth.
From doubt to decision to ability.
Before we finish, let's quickly review common mistakes.
Mistake 1. Adding to.
I must to go, right? I must go.
Mistake 2. Changing the verb.
She should studies, right? She should study.
Mistake 3. Confusing mustn't and don't have to.
You mustn't enter means not allowed.
You don't have to enter means not necessary.
Very important difference.
Now it's your turn. Answer these questions out loud. What can you do now that you couldn't do before?
What should you do to improve your English?
What must you change in your daily routine?
What might happen if you practice every day?
And what would you do if you spoke English fluently?
Pause this episode and answer. Speaking is the key.
Modal verbs are not just grammar tools.
They help you express your thoughts clearly,
Your ability,
your advice,
your responsibilities,
your possibilities.
your dreams.
When you say, I can, you show confidence.
When you say, I must, you show determination.
When you say, I should, you show wisdom.
And when you say, I might, you show openness to the future.
English becomes powerful when your words carry meaning.
If this episode helped you understand modal verbs more clearly,
Don't forget to like and share it.
subscribe to Talk Emma, Easy English,
And practice using modal verbs today.
because you can improve.
You should practice. You must believe in yourself.
And one day, you will speak confidently.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Keep learning, keep growing.